So you may be wondering, if you have a teenager and they're going to college, what is the issue with insurance? What do I have to do and what am I legally obligated? If you haven't started insuring them already, you're done for a little bit of a price hike. It's not cheap to insure anyone that's 16 to 25. Most college students, that's the limit that you have to keep them on your insurance. And legally, you don't have to keep them insured unless the insurance company requires it. And that's not even a legal thing, that's just an insurance requirement part. If they find that you are ignoring their rules and you've broken them, you've signed a disclosure that says, I approve, and yes, everything's true, and best of my knowledge and all of that, just like a contract, they technically could deny a claim if that person was involved. Most of the time, it begins to become a legal situation, and a lot of times it's covered. So insurance gets the raw end of the deal, but there are scenarios where it's not. And so you've got to be careful. Let's dive in and go over what are the processes you need to do and what are the steps you need to take to properly insure an away at school student or a younger driver. So like we mentioned in the first part, you've either got a young driver or a student, whatever the case is. Let's start with the main thing that you probably came here for, is if they're going away to school, do you legally or do you have to insure them? Like I said, no, you do not legally have to insure them unless your state has some law, but I've yet to see a state that requires that. The problem you're going to run into is even if you don't insure them, they're still tied to you. You're the legal guardian. If that is the case, then something that happens on campus, it will still follow back to you. If your insurance denies it, that's the scare tactic, right? Is they might and have that option, and they'll try because that's technically, they're not going to pay out just to pay out. You've got to deal with that part. That's all the legal mess and the mumbo jumbo. But at the end, if they do pay it, it's coming out of your pocket. If it's denied, then guess who's on the hook? You're the person legally responsible for that young adult. You are the guardian, and that's the unfortunate part of that. The same happens if they just move out of the house and they're under 25. Commonly, that age 25 is like that barrier that breaks apart those. Once they hit 25 and older, they're really on their own. They really should have their own, they're their own legal guardian. Technically, they can be at 18, but in most insurance world, that's that number that they won't even offer it. You're no longer a way at school student. Even if you are away at school, you're not listed as that driver on that policy. So you've got a lot. Hopefully I didn't confuse there, because there is a lot of legal responsibility for you and a lot of comeback to you that will necessarily hurt you if you are in a scenario that it does come to that. As far as the money part, there is a discount for away at school, and that's exactly what it's called, is an away at school discount. Commonly, if you have somebody that's 100 miles or further and they don't have the vehicle, you can tell your insurance, they'll usually discount the cost of that. Even if they have the vehicle, they can still be an away at school student. You'll get a discount, and then you can list the vehicle being at the campus. That way the car is insured correctly and the person's insured correctly, and you maximize the discounts that you can get. If the school is less than 100 miles, then usually that discount doesn't do much. There are a few companies that do under 100 miles, but it's very minimal as far as the discount goes. In that scenario, they're just going to be listed as a driver on your policy. And then really nothing changes there, because it's just like you had before. If you don't have them listed now, then they're technically not even covered in the first place. That's where if you've signed the right company, some companies have X'd those T's and or not crossed those T's and dotted those I's, to where if you do not disclose that person, then that person automatically gets excluded. There's a legal battle there again, but at the end of the day, I've seen a lot of people get denied. And I've seen those denials go through and process to where they have not won that, and they lost tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars because of that. Save $100 here, they lost thousands over here. Now, the common is that your student doesn't get in an accident, and that's what most people bank on, is she or he is a good driver, and I just trust that it's fine. I'm not going to put on my insurance, even though my insurance said I had to. I'll just say they live off at campus, or they're over here, and that's the case. Now they come home and they get permissible use for me to drive the car, which is not the case, because they technically legally lived at your house and still live at your house. They're just temporarily away. It's not a permanent resident. That gray area where some companies have determined, we know that's what's happening. They get it. Like, they're not dumb. They've seen every scam and everything out under the sun, and as little as you think of it there, they care about that. So in that scenario, a lot of companies will just deny you for that claim, because they know that person came up as a possible driver. We said they didn't live there, especially if you said it over the phone. It was recorded. Now they've got a strong leg to stand on, and you didn't pay the appropriate premium. I'm not here to tell you what to do there, I'm just giving you the ideas, but that's the process that a lot of people go through. Versus if we had a younger driver. If we have a younger driver, they have until they get their full license or they get a license to be listed as a driver. Most companies, you can list them as a permitted driver and there's no additional cost. They know that they'd rather list them on there to be stated that they might drive the car with supervision, and if they get in an accident, that's fine. They're okay with that. Part of the reason they do that is because it allows them to know when they turn 16, now they're gonna go pull the license, see if the license was processed, or maybe they'll wait till they're 17 or whatever the date is that the insurance company waits till, and then they'll send you a letter. Hey, we noticed that so-and-so got their license. We're gonna add them on as a driver unless something has changed. Contact us if anything's changed. And they already have gotten the approval because they previously listed them on the policy as a permitted driver. Now they're just switching them to a full driver. That's where the pricing changes because they're not forcing you to have them. They're already listed as a driver. Now they're adding them on as an additional insured to where that risk is playing a factor. Here's where it matters the most is it depends on how many cars you have versus how many drivers you have. Where it matters the most is the number of drivers versus the number of cars. If there are more drivers than cars, that younger driver is typically not going to be listed as heavy as a driver of a car. It depends on the company. I hope I'm not losing you here, but every company does it different. So most companies will say the number of drivers to the number of cars, and we'll assign them automatically on our own to whatever's the best price. They do that now because most people try to cheat it anyway. So they're just like, screw it. We'll just assign them for you and just give you the best deal. And so if there's more drivers than there are cars, that's good because they'll take the riskiest driver and leave them as a secondary driver. They all match up. But if there are more cars than there are drivers, now that risky person gets assigned to a vehicle, which raises the risk. And that's where you see those higher premiums come into play, where you're seeing the $200, $300 a month increase versus what everyone's saying is $100 a month. So do I have to list them? No, you technically could exclude anyone from your policy in almost any company. It's once again up to the insurance company, and 95% of the companies I know are going to just let you do it. You're gonna pay a $10 to $15 fee every year to have an excluded driver because of the paperwork, they gotta sign it, all that fun stuff. And there's not ever allowed to be covered if they drive your car until you remove them from the exclusion list, and then you're fine and dandy. Hopefully this was helpful. If you are shopping around and looking for that better deal, I've got a link in the description below that will help you talk to a local agent that quotes multiple companies, so maybe we try to find a better fit for you. I'll link the video there that goes in depth. If you're looking for just more of a discount with your current policy, how do I just get the price down? I've got a discounts video here that may help as well. I'm Mark with Think Insurance. I'll see you in the next one.